Australia get off to the perfect start at the T20 World Cup. We cross to the West Indies to get reaction from former captain Aaron Finch. A packed house witnesses a thriller in New York. So where to from here for Pakistan? We hear from Tim Paine and Lisa Sthalekar. Plus, USA in the Super 8s. It's no longer a pipe dream. Let's go around the wicket. Hello and welcome to New York for an episode of Around the Wicket in what has been an astonishing T20 World Cup so far. I'm Neroli Meadows. I've got Lisa Sthalekar, Hall of Famer, alongside me here with the Brooklyn Bridge behind us. And joining us live from Antigua is Aaron Finch, former Aussie captain. Finchy, great to have your company. We saw another last ball thriller today in New York. Bangladesh almost getting the job done against South Africa. Instead, the Proteas are through to the Super 8s. While where you are, we've got Australia, who are absolutely flying, winning their opening two matches, cruising past England, and the first time ever to bring up 200 in the men's T20 World Cup. How have you made, or what have you made of their campaign so far?
Australia have been really clinical so far right throughout. I think the fact that they were in a little bit of a sticky situation in the first game against Oman, they got out of that with some Marcus Stoinis heroics, and then they were clinical against England. That was brutal from Travis Head and David Warner up front on a wicket that was quite ordinary, to be fair. Like, if we're talking pure T20 wickets, that's an ordinary one so far. So they've been great, and I've liked what I've seen from the side. The fact that Stoinis is in really good form is a good sign for Australia as well.
What about Adam Zampa? He's been the white ball spinner for such a long time for Australia. I feel like he still doesn't get the credit he deserves a lot of the time, but he was really important the other day.
Yeah, he certainly was. I mean, you just look at the wickets that he gets. It's not just the amount of wickets. It's just what he does when he comes onto bowl. And he has to well and truly be in the conversation for Australia's greatest ever white ball spinner. Again, getting Joss Buttler. I think he's got him 5 times in ODIs, a couple of times now in T20 cricket. He gets the best players in the opposition out consistently, and that's his greatest strength. He loves a challenge. Unbelievable. And that record there says it all. That's just in World Cup, 16 matches, 27 wickets. That is standing up when your team needs it, and that is standing up in big moments, and Adam Zampa well and truly does that.
6 runs and over as well, which is astonishing. We're seeing low scores this T20 World Cup, but it's not always the case. Lise, what have you made of his performance, and should we give him some more love?
I think we should give him more love. I think those that have been watching the games and following Australia certainly do love what he's able to do. But it probably gives you an idea of where white ball cricket probably sits in the Australian community. It's kind of lost its glamour, its glitz, obviously behind a paywall now, but there's some opportunities given how well the Australian team is going in this T20 World Cup. If they perform really well and bring back the trophy, it's a chance to almost reignite our white ball team and get our best players playing those bilateral series.
And we've got to remember that Adam Zampa, he always keeps those receipts. Just ask Michael Clark, regular on Around the Wicket. You mentioned the name Marcus Stoinis a little earlier there, Finchy. The way that he has played in these opening 2 games as that key all-rounder role, obviously Mitch Marsh not bowling at the moment. A few months ago, there were question marks over whether or not he would be in the squad, let alone in the 11, let alone playing such an important role. What's impressed you the most?
Oh, I think the way that he goes about his innings, and batting at number 5 in T20 cricket is so hard, and you can never underestimate the difficulty that comes with that role. You're into a different situation all the time. You don't know what the situation of the game is going to be. So the fact that he's playing such an important role, his bowling along with his batting make him an unbelievable T20 package. I just think on the back of having a full IPL, of playing really good cricket, and then into the World Cup, he's had some real continuity for quite a while now. And super important for Australia, obviously, especially if they want to continue to go down the all-rounder route with Maxwell, Stoinis, Tim David, who can bowl as well, Mitch Marsh, and with Cameron Green on the side. But yeah, well and truly Australia's best performer so far.
I think also the fact you mentioned Finchy about the IPL, it's also where he's playing his cricket in Lucknow, which a pitch that hasn't really been a batting paradise. And then he's got 124 against Chennai. So he's starting to kind of unlock the secrets to building a big innings in T20 cricket. And it's not going wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, straight away. It's kind of going through the gears. And that experience and that exposure in the IPL, I think he's really confident in his own game plan.
It's a great point. You mentioned earlier the power hitting right at the top. Obviously, sorry, Finchy.
No, and that's a great point, Lise, because one part of his game that you could target him with was spin early on. And like you said, playing at Lucknow, getting exposure consistently, and then coming to Barbados, which was spin-friendly wicket. It had challenges for batters. So, yeah, it's a really good point that you make there, because it's a change that he's made in his game, and it's a crucial one as well.
You mentioned the power hitting. Your old mate, your old opening partner, David Warner and Travis Head opening the batting. There was a little bit of a question mark over Davey's fitness. He seems to have answered that particularly well. But a lovely little moment where he passed your T20 international record, most runs scored for Australia. We're seeing now you're in the commentary box. You gave a little bit of an applause. Davey noticed it and gave a little bit of a wave to his old mate. I just want to point out, though, you do still have a better average, 34.28 against 33.97. Line ball, but you still got him there. Was that nice to be there for that moment for Davey?
Yeah, it was really cool, actually. And I didn't know the camera was on me until it come up on the big screen at the ground. So, yeah, that was a really cool moment. And we've shared a lot. We've won a couple of World Cups together. So, yeah, it was nice.
Do you think he's playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder? Ahead of the England game, he came out and he said, I don't know why everyone talks about me and not everyone else in the team. What do you think?
I don't know why everyone does as well. I mean, he hasn't just been Australia's best ever three-format batter, has he? So, yeah, why would we talk about you, Davey? But no, I don't think that there's a chip on his shoulder. I think it's playing with an unbelievable freedom. He knows it's his last tournament for Australia, his last ICC event. He's just enjoying it, and from all reports, he's been the same around the group. He's soaking up the Caribbean lifestyle and just making the most of it. I think that so many times throughout your career you get consumed with what's happening, but when you do know that the end is coming, it gives you a great ability to, I guess, appreciate the small moments in touring life. And we're going to see the best of David Warner still.
He's so relaxed he's touring his way into the opposition's dressing room. He went up the wrong stairs, Finchy. Has that ever happened to you before?
No, it hasn't. That's quite embarrassing, though. But, I mean, most grounds that you play at, especially in Australia, you're so familiar with them. Or if you're playing a bilateral series, you're comfortable that you know where the change rooms are. Sometimes in ICC events, it can be a bit difficult because you might train or play in a change room one day, and then just with the nature of teams playing at the same ground, you might have to pack up your bag and put them in a different one. So I can understand it, but I've never done it myself.
What about you, Lise?
Only from a coaching point of view recently.
Oh, really?
Well, because they changed, we're at the same ground, and then because you're not the home side, you're the away side, and so I went up I was like, oh, wrong colours, sorry.
Did you give any advice to the opposition?
No, I turned around pretty quickly and marched myself out.
Glenn Maxwell finally got a few runs on the board up against England after a golden duck in the opening game. Have you seen enough from Maxie to feel like he can take this competition by storm from here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way that he went about his innings against England, who targeted him with some pace early and he counteracted that. We know that he's got the high strike rate, the high risk game, but his ability to adapt to conditions straight away against England and almost identify a really difficult period in the game. The 2 wickets had gone down, I think 4 runs it was, and for him to just identify that showed his experience and his maturity. And yeah, I've seen enough. As a package, he's well and truly right there. I think in T20 cricket, it can be 1 or 2 shots you hit out of the middle and you're firing, but these wickets also aren't conducive to just walking out and blasting them out of the park and guys getting 60 off 20 balls. So, I've seen enough. He'll be good.
And I actually think it's a brave move and the correct move by the Australian selectors to keep him going, right? The easy option would be after the first game, sorry, mate, you're sitting on the sideline. But when you know that he is the X factor and he can win you games, he may not win it at the start of the tournament. But when you get to the business end, he may be the difference to you lifting that trophy or not. So I like the fact that they're going to keep him in, let him feel comfortable, let him figure it out, and he'll be good.
And just quietly, with Afghanistan going the way that they are, those psychological scars from the ODI World Cup could come in handy from Glenn Maxwell and the Aussies as well. Just on that, so the Aussies have got Namibia and Scotland to come in this first round of the T20 World Cup. So you expect Australia to go 4 from 4 in advance to the Super 8s. But what should the approach be? What should they be looking for to make sure that they win all 4, but also a cherry ripe for this next tougher phase in the Super 8s?
Business as usual. That's been Australia's great strength over the history of ICC events. Is you never take anything for granted. You're not prepared to chop and change because you want to get somebody else a game. That's irrelevant. It's just about making sure that the boys are doing the basics well. They did that against England. Their mentality was right, and it showed. So continue that.
And we're going to take a close look as we finish up here, Finchie, about the next phase, because only 2 teams advance from this first round. Now, your seedings, where you finish on the table on the ladder in this first round, it doesn't actually affect what happens next. So this is a Super 8s. As it stands right now, of course, there's a lot of cricket to still be played. New Zealand, for example, have only played 1 game so far, a crushing defeat at the hands of Afghanistan. But have a look at that. India, Australia, Afghanistan, Bangladesh could be all playing each other in the Super 8s. And then USA, Scotland, West Indies and South Africa in Group 2. Once again, this could change, but it is remarkable what is happening at the moment and just proves, Finchie, that the 20-team competition and allowing the best teams in the world to play against those associate nations, it works because we're getting some killer upsets.
Absolutely. It's what it's about. It's about growing the game globally. And that's certainly what a 20-team tournament does. It provides opportunities for teams that don't get the chance to play against the bigger nations or the established test-playing nations. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great format. But it does make that group of Australia or that first group of the Super 8s a lot more difficult than the second.
Interesting times ahead. We'll keep you across it right throughout this T20 World Cup. Finchie, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the game against Namibia. All right, don't go
Enjoy
anywhere.
New York, because I'm enjoying Antigua.
Here that you are, Mr. Finch. Look forward to seeing you in New York. Don't go anywhere on Around the Wicket, because up next, Tim Paine, another former Aussie skipper, is going to be joining us to talk about Pakistan up against India, but also the USA taking the cricketing world by storm.
Trying to learn cricket a little bit.
It's like baseball.
Yeah, run back and forth.
We got like 2 bases.
Hit backwards. We got some people that like cricket back there, and I got to do some more research on it. It's confusing.
You up 2-0? Are you happy with the result?
Yeah, I mean, we took care of home court, but we got a lot more work to do, so we're not satisfied.
All the best. Lovely to meet you.
It's good to meet you, man. Good luck with everything. Oh yeah, shout out to U.S. cricket, biggest upset in cricket history.
It was the game that everyone was waiting for, and it's got to be said, it was a raging success as far as an occasion goes. India up against Pakistan. Those pictures not just from the ground, but from right around New York in live sights. It was an unbelievable sight to see. Tim Paine, former Aussie skipper, joins us now. Paine, we've got to go straight to the pressure on Pakistan, though, because they lost almost the unlosable, and that's coming off the back of losing to the United States. The situation was 48 needed off 48 balls and only 2 wickets down, and they lost it. How?
Yeah, I am not sure, to be honest, Nez. It's a very Pakistan thing. I think we spoke about it last week, didn't we, with Jason Gillespie and Gary Kirsten taking over the jobs, how big that job is going to be for those 2 men. We speak so much about the talent in the Pakistan cricket team, but clearly there needs to be some work put in. I heard some comments from Wazim Akram yesterday around the team itself. And a bit of infighting, and some people don't speak to each other, and pressure on the captain. So look, hopefully Pakistan Cricket Board stick with these coaches for a fair period of time, because I think they need at least 12 18 months before they can put their own imprint on it. There seems to be a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, which is hindering the team on the field. Hopefully they get it right, because we know, you look at some of the players in that team, they are absolutely world class. But once again, they managed to lose what was really an unlosable game. You mentioned those numbers. It was a run of ball with 9 wickets in hand, and top international teams just do not lose those games.
Those comments from Wasim Akram, you mentioned Pakistan players think that if they don't perform well, the coaches will be sacked and nothing will happen to them. It's time to keep the coaches and change the entire team. Very strong thoughts from a legend of the game and a legend of Pakistan cricket. You mentioned the captain there, Babar Azam. He's under a fair bit of pressure at the moment. A poor performance as captain in the ODI World Cup last year. You could see the pressure showing, and it felt like that again watching live yesterday. What do you think he would be going through right now?
Oh, he'd be feeling it. There's no doubt about that. I think every international captain does feel it, that it's a high-pressure job in any nation, particularly at World Cups or in big test series when you're not performing. But I think Wasim's hit the nail on the head there. We've had way too many changes of leadership. I mean, Babar's been in and out of leadership himself. Coaches are continually changing. The environment is always changing. That's a really, really challenging team and place to try and captain when stuff is continually changing. So hopefully, as I said, they give Gary, Jason, Babar a real run at it, give them 12, 18 months to tidy up things behind the scenes. And as we've said, the talent is there. They can get it on track. And I think Gary and Jason are both really good men to lead a really good environment if they are given the chance to clean things up.
I think the other thing as well is Gary Kirsten only came really late. So there's not a lot of time for him to be able to change the philosophy or the approach that the players are trying to go through. The other thing as well is the build-up. They played about 13 or 14 T20 games. 10 of them were against New Zealand this year. So it's not necessarily the best preparation for the World Cup. So you've got to be able to think from a foresight point of view with your future tours program to get it right before these big events, and stability. We've seen that in the Australian team. We've seen it in very successful teams in other countries like England. Stability is the key.
From India's perspective, they were able to defend 119 all out, which is a remarkable effort in New York. Are there some concerns there? You've got somebody like Virat Kohli opening the batting, unusual for him in India, only 5 runs in the first couple of matches. And it is the bowlers doing the job at the moment. What do you think?
I think it's actually a scary proposition, to be honest. They're winning games and they're clearly not batting at their best. Having said that, the wicket in New York isn't really conducive to excellent T20 cricket, but I think guys like Virat and Rohit, Rishabh, Pant, they've got so much class in that lineup, they'll figure it out. And as we know, when Jasprit Bumrah is bowling the way he is or the way he does in every single game, they are a formidable outfit. So, look, they're not playing at their best, but tournament cricket is about peaking at the right times. We know they've got the talent. They've got quality the whole way through that team. So they've had a steady start in different conditions that they're used to, and I expect they'll adjust and get better as the tournament goes on. So the fact that they're already winning games, and even one against Pakistan that they probably shouldn't have, is a scary thought for everyone else in that World Cup.
Just quickly on Jasprit Bumrah, back-to-back Player of the Match awards in the first 2 games. So clearly he's doing his job beautifully. And I don't know more than Rohit Sharma, all right? And I'm putting that on the table. But wouldn't you open with Jasprit Bumrah? I mean, as an opposition batter, you're sitting there going, he would be the least favourite person to face when you're walking out there for that new ball. What do you think? If you were skipper, would you be opening the bowling with him?
Oh, I'd be very tempted to. There's no doubt about that. I'm sure without, like you said, without knowing, the reasons behind why he doesn't. I mean, he's doing a brilliant job no matter where he bowls, and maybe they think that it suits Siraj with the new ball straight up. They've got high quality spin options that can bowl all the way through any part of the game. So, look, they're spoilt for choice. That's one of the reasons they're a great team. They've got guys that can bowl all through. But, yeah, certainly for me, if I had just Jasprit Bumrah in my side, I'd love to give him the first over every time, much as Australia like to do with Starkey, because every time he seems to bowl, he seems to take wickets.
And what about USA? Because now they are in the box seat for that Super 8 phase, and it'll be India against USA, a top of the table clash, Lise. We didn't think we'd see that coming. They beat Pakistan. It's an unbelievable story. How big a story is it?
Oh, it's massive. And, you can even get a sense around New York. Maybe not everyone, but at least people are talking about their team, which is nice. And the fact that they were able to start off well, I think this is the perfect time for USA cricket to really strike and hopefully get a few more people interested. So that game against India, I hope that actually there'll be a lot of USA fans with their team shirt, not the Indian shirt on, but trying to cheer on their side, because they've got players that could take it to this Indian team.
So Pakistan need to win their last 2 games, and they hope that USA lose their last 2 against the United States and Ireland. Whereas USA, if they beat Ireland, it looks like they're through to the next phase. Paine, stick around and you don't go anywhere, because after this short break, we're going to chat about England. Johnny Bairstow has had some things to say.
I think that post that event, the way in which us as a side reacted to that, I think was a real positive way. And you look at the results after that thing that happened at Lords, and I actually think that we finished that series a lot stronger than Australia did. So, look, I think that the impact that it had on us as a side and the Test side was actually a very positive effect. And look, you can make your own assumptions as to what effect it had on Australia.
It's the gift that just keeps on giving, Tim Paine. What about that Ashes series? Johnny Bairstow there talking about the famous stumping involving Alex Carey. They got better after that. It galvanised the group. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely they did, as you can tell by the World Test Championship table at the moment. And making my assumption from it, which he said we can post the Ashes, I think England have lost 4 of their 5 Test matches and Australia have won 4 out of their 5 Test matches and are flying along in the World Test Championships. So, look, I get it. It keeps coming up, but even for Johnny to say he hasn't seen it, he has definitely seen it, whether it's social media or whatever. He has sat down and watched that at some point. But yeah, I think everyone's just getting a bit sick and tired of them bringing it up and it continuing to drag on. The Ashes series was fantastic. We can't wait for the next one. They did play well in the back end of the Ashes, but so they should in their own conditions that suit them. They haven't won a test here, I don't think, for a long time. So, look, less talk about it and more action from the English. And I think even their white ball teams that I've noticed, the language coming out of them a little bit in the last probably 6 months is, I think they're living in the past a little bit. Their white ball team. I heard Moeen Ali the other day talk about, where we can do this, and if we lose more games at the start, we're great with our back against the wall. I feel like their white ball team is a team that's living 18 months ago. They need to be in the now. What happened in Australia in the T20, what happened in the World Cup, 50-over World Cup years ago in England has no relevance to what's going on in the West Indies right now. It's a completely different team, completely different conditions, and a completely different time. And I think it's really strange. The Test team tends to talk themselves up about they've changed the game of cricket, and their white ball team for me at the moment is living in the past a little bit. So it's been great to watch.
He's having a ball back home, isn't he? But on where England are at, I actually think you've got to come out hard because they've already had a washout. We're travelling around constantly to different islands. You don't want another washout. You need to win. You can't afford to go, great, we've lost a few, now we can start going. You can't in this type of tournament.
So what did you make of Butler's captaincy against the Aussies, Paine? Because you've got Will Jacks brought him in really early to bowl and then concedes 22 up against David Warner and Travis Head. There were some unusual decisions. What do you think?
And I think it started with the toss. I think the conditions in the West Indies, clearly, it looks like most grounds there, it's going to get difficult to bat second. So I think more often than not, you need to win the toss and bat. This isn't IPL conditions where you just back yourself to chase everything. It's going to get harder. That's the first thing. Secondly, if you are going to bowl first, unusually for me, I don't want to see him bowling first again in those conditions. But hit David Warner and Travis Head with some absolute pace, which we know that they don't love. Rather than coming out with 2 overs of off spin. Even Moeen, I didn't mind Moeen being used at the start, but you certainly don't use a part-time spinner in the second over against a David Warner and a Travis Head when they're looking to take you down. I thought that was a bit of a brain fade.
So be honest, Paine, as we wrap this up, how much are you cheering for Scotland instead of England? Are you enjoying this a little bit?
Well, I thought about this yesterday, Nez, and when you're playing in a World Cup, you want to win it. It's tournament play. Now, what Australia should do is send their players on holiday for that last game against Scotland. Put George Bailey, Andrew McDonald, Brad Hodge back out there. Let Scotland win, and then we'll go through to the Super 8s and England can pack their bags and go home.
Just a bit of Mel Gibson action maybe with the Braveheart and the Aussies just
Well,
deciding
also, though, I'm serious. I joke, but I'm semi-serious at times as well, because England are a fantastic white ball side if they get it together. And if we have control of not having them in there, then, well, see you later.
See you later to you, Tim Paine. Your shots have been fired. Thanks for joining us on Around the Wicket. Don't go anywhere because Lisa and I are going to take on the short stuff next.
Well, I'm not exactly sure about all the rules of that. Like this, you're going to do like a step and throw the ball out, and it's going to bounce and try to hit the wicket. Yeah?
Viral images of Dale Steyn going unrecognised, one of the greatest fast bowlers in the history of the game here in New York. Time for the short stuff. Have you ever dropped a "Don't you know who I am"?
No, I don't have to. I was at the game actually, and I've never heard an American shout out my name, Lisa Sthalekar. And I was like, oh, it's a Bangladeshi supporter who watches, obviously, the show.
That's what happens when you're a Hall of Famer, Lisa Sthalekar. The leg buys rule, does it need to change? Bangladesh robbed of 4 runs. They lose by 4 runs up against South Africa because this was a review and then it's a dead ball from that moment.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's something that everyone's fearful of, especially come a final. I actually think you need to probably play it out. Allow the ball to almost be completely dead. It's hard because it's been taught to us once the umpire puts their finger up that the ball is dead and you can celebrate. But maybe the umpire just needs to hold back, just focus on the ball being collected and then thrown into the keeper. Then the decision can be put out.
Needs to be tweaked. Who is going to be in the final? Putting you on the spot.
Based on what I've seen so far, Australia and India look pretty dominant.
Australia and India. How about that? Lisa Sthalekar, thanks for joining us in New York. We'll be back in a week's time as we look ahead to the Super 8s. We'll see you then.